Jamie, thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to have you. It really is.
Hi, Allie. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Yes,
The honor is mine and yours, it sounds like.
ours, all
The
of ours.
hours.
The audience as well.
The we. Thank you.
Everyone. So, Jamie, tell us, let's first start with your upbringing and background. Just kind of paint a picture for us. Did you have siblings growing up?
I do have an adoptive sibling. I was adopted in the 70s. Um, It's not a full understanding. However, when I was married and we were about to have either our second or third child, we wanted to figure out a little bit more of our medical history for our children. And I got really sick, and so we really wanted to figure out more about what was happening or what could be happening that we didn't have answers to. And in that, I contacted the adoption agency where I was always told I was adopted from. And lo and behold, none of my paperwork was found. Not my
Wow.
brother's, not mine. Not There was nothing proving that my adoptive parents were legal adoptees at that agency. That agency then, said, give me a couple weeks. We're going to look through the other adoptive agencies and we'll figure this out. Not only were they not, was anywhere their names in a legal adoption setup, I don't want it to ever feel like I don't have gratitude for the adoptive family that I was brought into, but nowhere in the state of Nebraska, it turns out, and the area of Missouri that they searched was their paperwork legally of me being legally adopted. And I never met my biological family, but that is also a whole nother story. And there's a little bit of heartache surrounding actually all of it, as there would be. You were told one thing your whole life only to find proof that wasn't the case. So, I mean, either the adoptive agencies are lying, all of
Mhm.
them, or the one specifically that I'm supposedly from, or there's something, I don't know.
Wow.
I
Now I'm
don't
thinking
know.
about the work that you do now in a totally different way. It's just interesting that now you help find the missing. I mean, that's
I always do say that the universe gives us plenty of, or God, whatever we believe in, that higher source will present signs of what's to come.
yeah.
We just may not realize it. I don't know. I just always felt loved. I don't want that to be mistaken. I always felt cared for by my family. I always felt nurtured and loved. I felt very blessed growing up. I had everything I could have ever wanted in the whole realm of things. And once I settled down, if you will, and got married, I realized what I had always been yearning for, and that is emotional connection. And that is something that I learned in my marriage and also had learned at a very young age without being able to really notice that. My mother was good at that. It was very a detached situation, though, where I think for my dad, money was emotional. I don't have a connection with my brother. We are very separate, very different people. And as I was working to exit the marriage with my children's father, I realized that I was in the same cycle as my mom, the emotional, mental abuse. And that's a learned thing. That can be very environmental. I'm not saying that as an excuse for any of that. However, it was definitely a wake up call for me in that That's not where I knew I needed to be going in that
Yeah.
for three boys. And so at that point, my mom and my dad didn't support my divorce. It took me 2 months to plan my escape with my team of doctors. And I mean, just two women's shelters on both sides in Washington and Oregon to get away. I feel like that is, had I not left, none of what continues to roll out in my life would have rolled out in the ways that it has. I feel extremely blessed, and it has taken a lot of years to grieve the situation of how I always thought my life would be.
Hmm.
However, there's so much excitement when I wake up in the morning because of what's going to happen today? It
Yeah.
literally could be anything. It's so
Wow.
weird.
In terms of the clairs, clairvoyance, clairaudience, you have all of them, which is amazing. And you didn't discover this until you were 8. Is that right? Is that the first time you saw a vision?
That's just the first time I saw a death happen, and then
Ah.
within 10 minutes led somebody to the body.
Are you able to talk about that?
I can talk about it. The person that is still in my life. Um, it was in elementary school, and it was Christmas Day. And I remember being up in my bedroom, and I don't remember what time it was or anything like that. But I just remember seeing something happen. And at 8 years old in second grade, I didn't know really what that was. And so I went downstairs and asked my mom if I can call my friend. And she was a teacher with his mom. And so she's like, "Oh, sure, you know." So I remember his mom answering the phone, and he got on the phone, and I just remember saying, like, "How's your dad?" And, "Oh, he's fine." And so basically I'm seeing what's happening in the home, and I just remember then all of a sudden, whatever, always sleeping. And then
Did you think anything of it afterwards? Like, did you think it was a coincidence or did it scare you? Or, I mean, as you were 8, I mean, I can't imagine, like, did you even really think about it after that?
I don't remember anything after that. I
Yeah.
don't remember how the phone call ended. I just remember, I don't remember. He came out to visit my children and I, um, later a few years ago, and that was really fun. And then when we'd go back to Lincoln, the kid's dad got to actually meet him too. What's also very interesting, and our lives would intertwine.
Hmm.
That was, in the 80s, like 85 or 86. When I was married, I remember also it was very interesting in that I had a smell and I didn't recognize the smell. And my kid's dad and I were driving. I just remember it being warm and we were going out to pick some blueberries. And I just got this smell and of this perfume. And I asked the kids, and the kid said, like, "Do you smell that?" And they couldn't smell that. And we didn't have a phone signal, but I just knew that I needed to reach out to the same friend
Wow.
as an adult now. And when I did, a nurse, we had to drive backwards. We had to turn around, put a halt in the blueberry farm, turn around and drive till I could get cell service. And I called, and I remember a nurse or somebody answering the phone. And sure enough, as it turns out, moments earlier, his mom had died.
Wow. So those kind of things, those kind of situations taking place, outside of him, were they continuing to happen periodically throughout your life? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you have a degree in psychology, sociology, and human services. Is that right?
Correct. It's a degree. It's a dual degree in psychology and sociology, and the an associate's degree in human services. The focus on counseling and abnormal psych.
So, did these experiences that you were having, your gifts and abilities that came at such a young age, did any of that or did all of that have to do with kind of what led you into getting those degrees?
So in in elementary school, I always felt like I had a lot of friends, but I like to explain in elementary, junior high, and high school. It's like I was one of the most popular, but the least invited. And I was fine with that. I just didn't feel like I had close friends, like a close group of friends for the most part that were welcoming. I think that more than that, though, it always felt like had to try really hard to be a part of something. But for me, I always just felt different. Like I remember laughing in high school or junior high, a friend had a tarot board, or not a tarot board, a Ouija board.
Ouija board.
We would get it out and play with it in junior high. I think we were in junior high. And I remember one night somebody said, "Why does this never work when you're not here?" And I remember the little boy with at the train station that would always come through. Like I remember, I can tell you what he looked like. I can tell you the train station. But I mean, so everybody, we always played. That was the thing at that house, at that slumber party, was we were going to play the Ouija board. But it would always be kind of funny because I don't like when somebody made that joke, like this never, I don't think it was a joke. I think it was just like, this never works like this
Right.
when you're not here. And I just like, oh, you know, over my head, like, no. Because
Wow.
again, it was just,
Yeah.
it wasn't weird for
Weird for
me.
you. Yeah. Yeah. So, at what point did you realize that what isn't weird for you is weird for other people?
So in high school, again, um, how I would receive was through my dreams. And so I'd have dreams, and it started happening where like all my dreams started like coming true. The dreams that I
Wow.
had would like happen. And I remember waking up one morning after having this terrible dream that two friends who I was on student council with had gotten in a car crash and died. I didn't know when, and when I went to school that next day, they were there, so like they were there. And then fast forward, it was high school graduation day, and I was leaving one of my friends' parties, and I hear my two, people. Okay, well, we're gonna be coming to yours, so we'll see you later. And so I go to my house for my graduation party, and within minutes, I don't even know how long it was, I hear sirens.
Mm,
And I didn't think anything of it, because there's a house, like the dream had happened a while ago, right? So
mm,
it's like, oh, no big deal. But these same people were the ones like, I'll see you at your party, at the previous party. Well, so we hear the sirens. After my graduation party, we go to graduation, and everybody is crying. And I just remember, I think I just knew.
new.
I knew
Wow.
immediately because they didn't show up at my graduation party.
Mm,
And at that point, as somebody came up, and I think it was my student council sponsor, and said, "This happened." And yeah. And so we went on with the graduation. And at that point, I knew like this wasn't just anything at this point.
mhm,
It
mhm.
kept,
Absolutely.
things kept happening. And so when we would go to also, as people do as teenagers, to abandoned homes,
Hmm.
like
Uh-huh.
I would be able to tell them what happened at this home. I
Wow.
would be able to tell my friend, but like, oh, no big deal. Even me, I was like, oh, it just, there was a fire at this home, and this child lived here, and they look like this. And like by graduation day, I knew that this was actually
A thing. Yeah.
different. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. When you get visions or tastes or smells or I mean, is it really emotional for you? I mean, you're seeing so much so much death. Is this really hard or is this kind of like matter of fact?
Yeah, it's matter of fact
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me. Like I can put myself in a situation that I'm physically not there,
Hmm.
and I can look around the room and tell you who's sitting on the couch. I can tell you what they look like. Maybe not names per se,
Hmm.
but I can tell you. I can just through description tell you who's in the room. Like say if I'm doing my work for a search party or something and somebody is missing, I can put myself in that room. And I didn't know until like last year, I think, that it was called remote viewing.
Yeah.
But so I would just put myself in that room and I can describe what's in the room. I can see the glass on the table and taste it. I
Wow.
can, let's say it's a murder. I can be that person and describe what's happening. I can feel it in my throat if there's a strangulation, and you can actually, when I am doing this, the people that I'm working for will see me literally choke or grab my heart, or if it's
Wow.
like a, or my head, if something is right. So I can feel it. And then like when the YouTube or something would blow up, right? Let's say like a few years ago, it started really blowing up with tarot or spirituality.
Uh-huh.
And then that's how I learned the terms that I was already doing. And I
Wow.
didn't know anything about, like, I couldn't have told you even 6 years ago what Claire meant. I mean, probably 6 years ago because, but like 10 years ago,
Yeah,
no clue.
absolutely.
Like, oh, you know,
What do your kids think of all of this?
I've asked them, and for them, it's just like, it's just
It just
normal.
is what it is. Yeah.
It's just normal.
Yeah.
I've asked them, what do your friends think
Hmm.
about this? And, I live in a community that I don't feel judged.
I definitely think more and more people are starting to become more curious about it. Like, what is this? I'm finding out that there's that psychics have run in my on my mom's side of the family. It shows it in my astrological birth chart, and I've no, I mean. We've had conversations like my mom, when she was little in bed, she used to see shadow people at the end of her bed. When I was younger, I don't remember much of my childhood, but I do remember very young, knowing when energy was around me. I could never see it, but I could always sense it. And it always scared me. As I got older, it was just, I started getting downloads, just weird things were happening. I've seen orbs. That was probably in the last 5 years, I've seen two. So it just got to a point where I had experiences myself when I was younger. My family, I had heard some stories. We were pretty quiet about it in general. There was something there. It wasn't just coming out of the blue. I knew there was something around our family. And then again, the internet came and I started hearing near-death experience stories and psychics were coming on, tarot reading was coming on, and I was just like, yes, yes.
So you are familiar with the orbs and the shadow people. I would love to learn more. So I don't see as much of, I hear, I've had clients talk to me about the shadow people, but and I have seen the orbs and stuff. Shadow people, can did she ever see those, or when you even saw the orbs, did you guys ever talk about that? What was that feeling like for the two of you to be able to, her experience and your experience?
When she told me that she saw shadow people, I was very young. I would try to sleep in my room by myself every night, and I would end up in my mom's room because of the energy I was feeling. And whether it was negative or positive, it didn't matter. It scared me because I couldn't see it. So I never saw the shadows like she did. So I have a feeling because I mean it became like a regular thing where in the middle of the night I would run into her room and I would sleep with her. And it had to have come up in conversation after one of those nights where she was probably just like why are you running in here? That kind of thing. We never really talked about it outside of that. It was just like that one conversation that she told me that she saw shadow people and that she had told her mom about it, and her mom confirmed. She was like, "Yeah, that's just our past loved ones, our family members that have passed. They're just watching over you. They're just checking on you." That's what she told my mom. That's what my mom told me. We never really talked about it since. I was pretty quiet growing up. I kept a lot of stuff in. And like the orbs, that didn't come until recently. So there was very little talk in my family. And in fact, once I started this channel, my mom's brother, my uncle, told my brother that he ended up seeing the spirit of my grandmother's best friend. She had passed away. I think he was in like middle school or high school. And the day she died, he ended up seeing her spirit
Hmm.
as they do. Not a shadow person. It was her in like the iridescent, however they appear. And he's never told anyone that until recently. He told my brother. He still hasn't told me about it. I mean, like a lot of my family thinks I'm crazy for having this channel. Even my uncle was telling my brother like this channel is weird. And as soon as he said that, he proceeded to tell the story about my grandmother's deceased friend that he saw. And it's like,
Wow.
like this is how much we talk ourselves out of it. It's crazy. So, like my mom's all in at this point. My brother, I think he's all in. They still have questions and don't fully understand it, but they're believers. They know that there's something else going on than what we've always been told. So we're getting there slowly but surely.
If you would like to, we can see what comes through.
I'm just curious about the US in general.
Yes, and actually, if you look
When did
back in videos before COVID, and I didn't realize this, but a client pointed this out. I guess on live videos on my Facebook, which is really the biggest family I've got. It is over on Facebook, and it's kind of what got me rolling is that I called a mass suicide, a mass death, and I
mm,
didn't know what was going to happen. It's live. It's still over there on the Facebook. People can find it still. There's multiple of the videos, but I talked about mass deaths. Like it didn't feel like, murders per se, just people dying. And I couldn't explain it. And it was a live video. And so then, like, within the next, like, 7 months of those live videos, COVID happened. In those videos, I said that there were four of these waves, and we've only had three so far. So we're waiting on the fourth wave. And so that fourth wave, what I believe is flying under the radar, and they're not talking about it. There's going to be another mound of death. And I'm not sure, if it is an ailment. I do feel like that it could be some type of virus that we're not going to know, that we're not going to have a shot that we all need to get injected for, or we lose our jobs and our homes and family, right? Also, with that too, is I have videos out there of on the Washington coastline that there are fault lines. So we're all energy, right? And so what I see happening is because we're reaching this another point of anxiety. And if we're all reaching this point of anxiety, then we all affect everything, including the fault lines. And the fault lines that I'm seeing are on the Washington, Oregon, possibly down to the California coastline. And if our anxiety keeps going up and up, those fault lines, the more I have met with scientists, like they will split. And if they split, then we're looking at complete devastation in the beginning, like coming out of maybe Rainier, but the fault lines under the ocean split, and then that causes a tsunami or some type of wave that then comes up the coast, the Seattle area, into like all the way up through, somehow reaching Portland, Oregon. possibly even coming up through the Columbia River Gorge here. And now we have Adams on that side of us, and we have Mount Hood here. Keeping in mind also, as that energy comes up, if that tsunami, if this does happen on those fault lines under that ocean, then we've got Rainier, we've got Mount St. Helens. There is, and now it comes up here through the Columbia River Gorge, where I live, sit between two major volcanoes. And then
Wow.
if it keeps going, it's a matter of time before it hits the ring of fire. And then now we're international. And that video, those videos are out there. I know it's out there on the YouTube too. It's one of the only live ones I have on the YouTube, but it is so in like such a big deal for us to go within, because it
Mhm.
does start. The only way I really feel like we're going to avoid this is like that we are all determined to put in the work to heal, to really, and how we do that is feel everything, feel all the situations that cause us heartache, all the bitter, re-experience that in our body so we can finally clear the space of that anxiety. And so, um, if we can tame that individually, then we're looking at a pause on those fault lines. But I do see that as far as the more political aspect goes, what I see happening is there is going to be, I don't see this current, I do not see Donald Trump making it through the 4 years. I also see Musk ducking out and basically potentially screwing Trump over, everybody over. I do feel, though, that something's going to shift so much actually in the House seats. But more than that, also, I'm not seeing, I really genuinely feel like a lot of the trauma that we're facing in the in our world just in general is because we are holding on to a social construct that there's no clear focus on what it means, and that is religion. And so until religion is falls away and everybody just realizes that they're their own gods separate of anybody else, because we have our own separate solar systems, that's how we make our choices, right, different than everybody else. Until that religion starts to fall away, which we're holding on to white knuckles over right now because of Christianity. I keep going about this, but until those white knuckles loosen and the religion, we're holding on to something that's outdated and outgrown. And so until we do something very significant internally, each of us, to shift that ingrained thought that society has embedded, we're still with that fourth thing that I mentioned earlier is bound to happen. It's just a matter of time.
Are you seeing anything economically or financially?
So I do believe that, I don't know about you. I don't do a lot of trusting with the banks. I'm one that like would really love to keep cash alive. So as much as I can, I pay in cash. And economically, I do feel like what's trying to happen is to remove the American dollar, or to remove the dollar in general and use like Bitcoin. And where I do see things beginning to go, I had a conversation with somebody a couple of weeks ago, is silver perhaps, or, gold, or, something like that. Economically, I think that we are going to, I think that we're in crisis, number one.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that until um until people start standing up for, specifically, I'm gonna say it, we live in a world right now in the United States, I should say, that if we don't start seeing white males taking a stand on behalf of everybody else, it's going to be a really hard, long process.
Yeah.
right now I think what's being created is a very blurry line on purpose
Hmm.
between truth and facades.
Yes. I was gonna say, do you have any advice? But I mean, you saying going within, that really is it.
That's
I,
where it
I,
starts.
yeah,
That's the
it's
cause
the
of
only
all the
way out of
anxiety
this.
right now.
Yeah, yeah,
I really believe that.
yeah.
And, nobody anxiety gets raises more than when they're feeling attacked. So we have to also internally learn how to better talk to ourselves so that we
Mhm.
are able to better communicate with the people that do have that more of a chance to we have to and with that that empathy and that compassion, even though we're all human, and like when we're feeling bitter, we're still human, right?
Yeah.
So we have to be able to give ourselves the grace to accept that we're going to be human. The mistakes are going to be made. We're going to go through all this heartache because we're basically being shown a direction that all of us like internally know we need to take if we want to survive this before that rain of fire stuff starts happening, or it's the latter and just let it happen.
Yeah.
But we have to start talking about it. We really have to
Yes.
start talking to ourselves better so that we can talk and communicate to others better. And
Yes.
with that comes that love for ourselves. And it's not about like right or like somebody being proved a certain way. It's literally that getting in touch with ourselves enough to know the difference between right and wrong when it comes to how we communicate, how we treat people.
So I definitely want to touch on your work with finding the missing. So you work with investigative teams as well as the families, is that correct?
Yes.
So what are they reaching out to you for help? Or are you picking up and sensing things and reaching out to them to help them, or a little bit both?
A little bit of both. So because I have been doing this a while, um, I I think that a lot of it is word of mouth, but I do how it originated like more full blown for the clients to come in is that I would wake up from having these dreams, and then I would get so obsessed with the people I was seeing these things happening to in my dreams that I would get on the internet until I could zero in on like using an atlas, you know, using an
Wow.
atlas or something to just really like just going through like dialing in on the location. And then more than that, once I got like an area like of where I was seeing it, then I would dial into the faces and what people looked like just online. Just it would take hours sometimes because I wouldn't want to, I knew I couldn't reach out until I had something significant. Like, matter of fact, this person's missing, this family member lives there, and at that point, and this is how it happened. And then at that point, I would be able to reach out, and often I would I would just call the emergency, non-emergency, or whatever, or I'd look at the and keep in mind this was years ago. So then I would look at the missing people list, and sometimes I just like feel my way through the names,
Wow.
the database. Um, and then once I was able to do that. It was probably like 2018 that's mostly kind of how I was doing it. Outside of the people that would just always knew I already knew I did it, and so
Yeah.
then I would do it. But if I had these dreams, would just I would almost get obsessed about it,
I don't
and
blame
then
you. Yeah.
in that case, that's how. And then the more and more, then it would not always be in the United States. It would be somebody I was seeing in another country, and so that's how it expanded more internationally too. And then a lot of this too is from my Facebook page, Social 1111, is all those people that show that would come through there when I would do live readings. Then it would be word of mouth to wherever they were at if a family member was missing or whatever. So that's how it kind of started for me, is through the dreams, then I would go through the like until I could figure it out, and then I would dial in. And so there were big cases in Iowa that like, and then the cases kept getting bigger and bigger of the people that I was helping, and that at that point, um, that's how I kind of put my name out there. And now that it's out, it's out there. So,
Incredible. Has anyone been found alive, or is this all?
oh yeah, oh yeah, because I
Wow.
telepathically just yes, I'm a medium, but telepathically I can tune into the missing's higher self. So a lot of sex trafficking, but I can
Yeah.
tune into their higher self
Wow.
and be able to lead people to them in that way. You know, removed from, you know, I always started to, it's going to be ultimately their choice.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, depending on that situation, right? If there's obviously very illegal things happening, that's one thing. Um, but you know, it's
Wow.
as an adult, there's a lot of legalities to
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and a lot of things that
Wow.
surround being able to do that. But yes, telepathically, then I'm able to find um, people that way.
Wow.
Definitely. Yeah. And
That's
that's the
amazing.
biggest hope for me, right? Is that
Hmm.
originally when I do start receiving from them to help to find them, that it's not just something telepathic, or that it's not just because they're departed. It's I've since been able to learn the difference. But there for a while, sometimes it is blurry line, and I I just it's kind of that the like there's not I'm not always 100% going to be able to do what you need what I'm hired to do. However, I'm definitely never not gotten close.
Yeah. Yeah. Incredible. Wow. I'm going to have all of your links in the description for everything, your social media, YouTube, your website, all of it. You are lovely. Your story is lovely. Your work is lovely. You're amazing. And I can't thank you for
Oh,
doing this.
thank you, Allie.
Thank
It's just such
you.
an honor to get to meet you. I just am so grateful.